And so from a human psychology standpoint, we have to find kind of the motivational aspect of like,
Yeah,
what are you willing to
100.
do? How does it fit with your lifestyle? And how do we start to build that, the intrinsic motivation around that?
Well, hi everyone. Welcome into Pushing the Limits. Today I have the wonderful Ben Brown with me. Welcome to the show, Ben. Fantastic to have you.
Lisa, it's a pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
It's going to be a good conversation. Now, you are an amazing exercise scientist. You're like got a body systems. You are incredible at helping everyday people reach their fitness and weight goals and stay healthy. But yeah, you in your words, tell me your little bit of your backstory and how did you get into this space, Ben?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you asking, and it's kind of been a long, as I think for most of us, like we all have our own personal struggles that we go through that sort of lend itself to us having to develop the tools and the skills to first and foremost help ourselves. And by virtue of doing that, we come to realize that those very same skills are the exact skills that we can then leverage to help others. And and that's, certainly what happened with me growing up. Um, I had a number of stomach issues growing up, through high school, a lot of kind of acid reflux, IBS type symptoms. I would throw up a lot after I would eat, all kinds of gastrointestinal issues. And we kind of joked about it in my family because my mom has a ton of issues. And it was kind of like, the running joke, like Ben has a sensitive stomach like his mom, which
Yeah.
I just kind of chalked it up as being normal. Like if I would eat an overly fatty food or processed food, I would kind of get sick. And, um, was so uncomfortable over the years that I started to realize and had kind of gone down the conventional medical route of been on the antacids. They did an
Yeah.
endoscopy to look at my stomach lining. They're like, it's inflamed, but there's nothing, quote unquote, there's nothing wrong with you. Just
Uh-huh.
keep taking the medicine.
Uh-huh.
And I came to realize that from the time I was like a newborn, I'd been on round after round of antibiotics.
Wow.
Um, that obviously we know, and I'm sure your listeners know that that just completely wipes out gut bacteria. So I had this kind of overt gut degradation that had been progressing over the years, and developed food sensitivities. And so my journey was a lot of kind of just starting to figure out how I can heal myself.
Yeah.
I went to college. I played rugby at University of Arizona here in
Yay.
Arizona.
We're
Yeah,
a rugby nation, obviously.
yeah, well, we and funny enough, when I graduated U of A, we toured New Zealand for a couple weeks. Got our asses absolutely handed to us, but
You've
it
been
was
doing it
it
a
was
while.
beautiful and fun, and drank plenty of beer along the way, as rugby players do.
Yeah.
But um, what I was athletic, into sports, naturally health minded. Fitness came easy for me. It just was sort of perpetually like I was just trying to figure out what was going on with. I knew nutrition was the key. I knew nutrition was the key. I went to graduate school for exercise and wellness, studied strength and conditioning, continued to just explore on my own, like how to get my own stuff in check. Started studying functional medicine from some of the best practitioners in the world, got out of grad school, and kind of finally came to the diagnosis of like I'd been struggling with H. pylori, leaky
Yeah.
gut,
Wow.
food
Mm.
sensitivities. Worked with some great practitioners to get it under control, tightened up my nutrition, and like I said, is that was the impetus for me to realize the power of nutrition, of lifestyle, how everything is integrated together, right?
Yeah.
And really wanting and desiring to take this kind of whole body approach to health and fitness and wellness, hence the name of my company, Body Systems, right? Is really looking at all of the body systems in this sort of symbiotic approach to how can we help someone improve their health. And that's really been the process over the past now, 15 to 20 years of iterating of like, how do we help people, be it in person, be it online, be it through supplementation, be it through functional medicine, be it through the nutrition and lifestyle coaching. And that's really our kind of belief system.
Yeah, no, absolutely fabulous, Ben. Isn't it? These pain to purpose stories are so common, and it really is a driving force when you have something wrong with yourself or a loved one. Often the case, in my case, it was a loved one who had major issues that really threw me into the space, and it's really, really. I find people that have that sort of uh, background, they have an empathy for people that if you've never experienced, if you were a trainer, like a top trainer like you are, but you'd never experienced all this, you might blow off a young athlete who's
Yeah.
going, I've got sore guts and I've got this and I've got that. I'm working with an elite triathlete at the moment, and his coach is going, "Why are you taking so many pills? What is
Mhm.
this lady doing? We know what." And they have no idea because that's not their area of expertise, but they don't understand the things that this young man's going through because they're not in the functional medicine space. They're not doing, so when you find someone who has has their own story, they're often very open to hearing and listening to their clients, their patients, and actually getting to the root cause and then finding out because, like you said, like the athletic side of your story, that came easy to you to be this top athlete, but you had these gut issues. So that was
Yeah.
something that and it makes you a more compassionate person when you're dealing with people. And I find it's really interesting that the gut. I have a biotech company, Avum Labs, and we've gone after immunosenescence with our formulation that we've just released in the last 6 months, which we've spent years prepping for. Sorry, that's my note taker just popped in there. I don't know why.
Okay.
Ignore. um, so uh, it the biotech company, so we've gone and uh, worked on immunosenescence, so the aging of the immune system, and that's
Mhm.
very much tied to the gut. And we see a lot of leaky gut, we see a lot of calprotectin high, zonulin high in
Mhm.
microbiome testing, and all of
Yeah.
this IBS symptoms. Leaky gut is a major, major issue that is coming up a lot. And so, suffice to say that working on the immune system and the gut health is really the central pillar, if you like, to getting somebody well. That's usually where I start. No matter what they're dealing with, often it's come from the gut or it's related to the gut and the immune system. So that's always a really good place to start doing sort of things like microbiome testing or just taking a good intake form of what's actually going on, what symptoms are they having. So tell me a little bit of the types of people that you are working with and what are some of the challenges that you commonly see in your practice and that, like
Yeah,
might
absolutely.
resonate with a few people listening.
I mean, candidly, I work with a lot of people like us. I work with highly driven, high performing men and women who are committed to kind of making change around their energy levels, their physique, their performance, their longevity. I work with a lot of guys specifically in their 40s, 50s, and 60s
Mm-hmm.
that have been successful in business
Mm-hmm.
and they have not been successful with their body composition, their physique, their energy levels, and they're kind of at the tipping point in their life where they prioritized everything and everyone and everything else
Mm.
except themselves, and they've kind of are, frankly, for lack of a better term, disgusted with the way that they're showing up because it is very much is not in their identity to
Yeah.
kind of be on display the way that they are. They
Mm-hmm.
pride themselves on their success in business, the way they raise their kids, and ideally the example that they're setting, and fundamentally they're not upholding their end of the bargain with respect to the example, with respect to the vows that they made to their significant other when they
Mm-hmm.
got married. Um, and so, they're kind of at wit's end in terms of like, how do I make these long-term change? Like, yeah, I want to look good, but ultimately, like, I want to feel good. I want to be around a long time for my family. And like I
Yeah.
said, be able to set the example for my kids as they grow.
Yeah, and it's so difficult to do nowadays, isn't it? Like it's so easy to get caught up in your business and your life and looking after everybody. A lot of mums do this as well, and you think you're following the advice, you think you're doing the eating well, you're doing, and it's just falling short, like we have these generic influences on Instagram telling you to, everybody should be keto. No, everybody should be this, and everybody. There's no personalization. There's no looking at your situation. What do you think about all that sort of stuff that you see online? And
Well, I think you're right. We we thrive off of busyness, and there's no lack of opportunity for us to eat up hours of the day, whether we are being productive or not. For so many people, we're not being productive, but we still classify it as being busy to the detriment of, like we were discussing, our ability to cook healthy food, plan, prepare, shop, organize, create structure in our routine, hit the gym, help our kids make better decisions and show them how to make better decisions around their nutrition. I literally just got off a call with a old friend from graduate school, and she was expressing she has a 14-year-old son who's overweight. He's pre-diabetic.
wow.
She's a busy dentist. She has a busy practice. Her husband works 60 hours a week as well, and she's at her wit's end around the fact that she let this happen. And I
Hmm.
applaud her for taking ownership
Mm.
over the situation, because our kids are going to do what we do. They're going to eat the food that's in the house. We're the ones shopping. We're the ones preparing or not preparing or eating out. And, these are the hard conversations that we have to have, Lisa, around taking true ownership over our behaviors, and the conversations that I have with clients around, if you're not where you want to be, it's your fault. If your kids are not where you want them to be, it's your fault. And so, how do we start to prioritize and structure things appropriately in our life to place the value on those things, right? If you say your family's number one, if you say your health is number one, show me. Like, show me your schedule. Show me how you're prioritizing it. Otherwise, it's not actually a priority for you. And so these are the really challenging conversations that we have with clients first and foremost, of making sure that they're in a position where they actually want to make change, and acknowledging is like you continuing to grind on business, as financially lucrative as it is, like physiologically, psychologically, emotionally, you're suffering. And that's not gonna, what good is that gonna do for the goals that you say that you have for your health and your family long term?
Yeah, and it is so easy to just let go because we have got a lot on our plate nowadays and we have got a lot of things going on and we are juggling a lot of balls. I run three companies and I have a disabled mum who's
Hmm.
24/7 care. And at times, you're just tearing your hair out like with exhaustion and, with the things. But that means that I have to prioritize the good inputs as best I possibly can manage, like starting the day off right, taking my HRV in the morning, my heart rate, having a cold shower, jumping on the trampoline for 1 minute, whatever I can manage in that chaos of that morning schedule that it takes me an hour and a half to get her up and ready, and get all her supplements and all her things ready
Yeah.
and all her injections and all of the stuff that I have to do before I even get to work. And a lot of people are in similar or different. They've got kids, they've got disabled kids, they've got parents to look after, and so you have to have everything tightly scheduled and sort of down to a routine in order for it to function. And it takes a while to develop these systems, I find, and I'm always tweaking my systems to try to improve. Got a long way to go. But there's little things that we can start to do every day that really help move the needle forward. Would you agree with that? Like
I would
setting
agree
little,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, Lisa, I mean, it is hard. Like,
yeah,
it, amongst everything, we make it hard for ourselves. And, there's nothing that's easy about having a tremendous amount of responsibility, which frankly are a lot of the clients that we work with.
mm, mm,
Um, but therein lies the responsibility to, again, prioritize those things. And I think it's absolving people of the pressure of what they of absolving them of all of the stuff that they think they need to do,
mm-hmm,
and rather helping them get clarity around how simple it can be just to start to drive some momentum. It's like, listen,
Hmm.
let's forget about what you think you need to be doing around like planning all your meals and training 4 or 5 days a week and starting to run and only eating clean foods and never drinking an alcoholic beverage again. And like, if we just absolve you of all of that and we simply start from what the low hanging fruit is, right? Of like, hey, listen, maybe we just need to implement a bedtime routine and a wake up routine. Like you
Love
said,
it.
it's like, am I getting to bed on time? Can I get quality sleep? Am I doing the things that are going to contribute to a quality night's sleep? Can I wake up at the same time every morning? Can I get moving? Can I get some sunlight in my eyes? Can I
Yeah.
set the foundation there as the bookmarks,
Yeah.
you know? And then can we start to build some structure in between? Can we just start to move more? Can we focus on just eating a little bit more protein? Can I focus on hydration? Can I knock down the alcohol intake? Can we add in some more nutrition or supplementation or focus on some gut health? Right? Like this
Inch
isn't going
by
to happen.
inch, little by
It
little.
has to be.
Yeah.
I'd say my kids every day, how do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
One bite at a time, Dad. It's like, that's it. It's like, it's so easy to get overwhelmed with, as you mentioned, all of the stuff on
Yeah.
social media and all of the influencers is like, oh, maybe I need to go, carnivore starting Monday.
Mm.
And it becomes these overly restrictive, really seemingly complex processes that lend itself to us just not being consistent.
And
And the
failing.
only way we're going to develop the behaviors and the skills and the tools is by establishing that semblance of consistency, which means it has to start with what we're willing to actually and capable of actually doing. And that's, fundamentally it's different for everyone, which is what we try and figure out in the initial stages of when we work with people so that
Yep.
we can start to build momentum and progress. And then it becomes intrinsic, right?
Yep.
It becomes something where it's not so much I have to do this, but I get to do this. I want to do this. I know I'm feeling better when I'm doing these things. I'm getting better sleep. I'm waking up refreshed. I want to move. Now I'm actually getting my hunger back. I want to be able to eat healthy foods, stop relying on sugar or caffeine so much, yada, yada, right? You get it.
Yeah, this is just preaching from my my book. Yeah, because it's really is tackling the little things that you can right now, not trying to tackle everything at once. And I always say that routine beats willpower any day. Like with willpower, we last maybe a week or two, right? Or even shorter, because we have biological systems that are geared towards chasing fat and sugar. And if we feed those systems and we're not putting in the right stuff, you're fighting a losing battle against the evolution of how we came to be, right? We used to have to chase sugar and fat because that was prime for survival. That was the thing. Now it's on every street corner. That's a problem. So we want to go down to setting routine rather than trying to rely on your willpower. Because when something becomes a routine, like 60 days, 90 days, whatever it takes for you to really set something up, and it just is a little thing that you've changed and implemented, and then you have a little success, and then you build on that little success and you fall off the bandwagon and you go off and drink too many beers or you go and have something bad to eat, it's like, okay, not beating yourself up, but just going right back on the bandwagon. Where did I go wrong there and what can I do better today? Rather
Yeah.
than the guilt trips, because when you have the guilt trips put on you on top of, and we do it to ourselves, then you're like, ah, stuff it, I'll go and eat twice as much because I've already broken my diet or whatever. I might as well go and go crazy then, you know what I mean? And I'll start again on Monday. And that sort of mindset is really detrimental. And the other thing I see that a lot of people doing wrong is like I do genetics in my practice, and I'm a big fan of understanding what you were born with in order
Mm.
to understand what you should be doing with your body to get a user manual for your body. I had an example of a lady last week. She was so disciplined, doing everything right, but very overweight, always been overweight, feeling like crap. And did her genetics, and I'm like, you're doing exactly everything wrong because you've been following the influencers on Instagram, been doing the keto diet, high fat,
Mm.
high saturated fats,
Mm-hmm.
high meat intake, and she was a person who
Yeah.
needed a lot of vegetables and hardly any meat. And so she was like being this super disciplined. She said, I can't eat less. I'm eating once a day. I'm just having, one pork chop a day. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the wrong thing for your body type, for your genetics. And it's sad because they're so disciplined, so trying hard. And all they ever get reap is criticism from other people. Yeah, you're overweight. You must be eating, the stereotypical sort
Yeah,
of
totally.
responses. And you get that from a lot of guys who've never had problems maybe with their weight, and they just think that anybody that's overweight is undisciplined and is eating crap. And I'm an ultra marathon runner. I spent 25 years doing extreme amounts of exercise. And the more exercise I did, the fatter I got the times.
Mm.
Like I was massively inflamed. I was over cardiovascular exercise up the wazoo. I wasn't doing enough weight training. And that was all wrong for my body type, for my genetics. And I just got fatter. I mean, I ran through New Zealand at one point and I was doing 500 kilometers a week. I don't know what that is in miles, but 300 odd something miles.
Yeah.
And I put on weight, and I'm like, if this calories in calories out thing is a thing, it's complete and utter bullshit. Sorry, it wasn't working. In that case, I should have been a stick figure, and I
Yeah.
wasn't,
Yeah.
because it was massive inflammation, massive hormonal, dysregulation, adrenal burnout, all of these things, thyroid going south, all of these things that I'd done to myself because I'd believed the story of the more you exercise, the more you'll lose weight. And that couldn't have
Mm-hmm.
been further from the truth. When I chopped it down and I did genetics and I studied it and I worked out what I should be doing, which was a hell of a lot less. And on a tenth of the exercise that I'd previously done, I got really ripped, and I was, unfortunately, by the time I did all this, I was, my late 40s, early 50s. And so it took me a long time to work this stuff out. I got the six pack that I'd always wanted. I got to be super lean, super functional, but I had to undo all of that damage that I'd done trying
Yeah.
to be
Well,
disciplined.
I think it provides a really good example, though, just from a scientific standpoint and from a metabolism standpoint of why exercise in and of itself is just not a good weight loss tool. And I think it's a massive misconception around people leveraging, and this is a common conversation that I have with clients um, around you trying to use exercise to drive weight loss.
Yeah,
Because
that's what I was
fundamentally,
doing.
again, yeah, from a metabolic standpoint, is our body fights back really hard
Yeah,
against caloric expenditure. Um, and from almost like a survival mechanism standpoint, right, to the degree that for most people, it's going to force them to move slower, to function slower, to eat more, to crave more, um, to digest slower, to offset hormones,
yeah,
to
100%.
right, all of those things, and it's liberating. And what I actually like to frame it as, and may perhaps for your listeners is I think it should feel liberating to know that you actually don't have to crush yourself in the gym and have barf inducing workouts or be just like doing all the burpees and the boot camp classes. And in many cases, those are part of what's contributing to you not being able to see change
Mm.
because it's contributing to you inadvertently overeating, inadvertently moving less during times when you're not exercising, um,
Shifting hormones,
shifting
inflammation.
hormones, being more inflamed, right? All of those types of things. And instead, it's like what you're doing is like, how do we optimize for gut health? How do we optimize for nutrition? Make sure you're getting enough of what you need. Like, yes, calories still absolutely matter, but it becomes a lot easier of an equation when we're not trying to offset all the garbage that we're eating with heaps and heaps of exercise, because
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
No, that was my paradigm, especially as a young athlete, because I thought, well, I'm training so much I can eat whatever I like, and did, and back then, of course, ultra marathon runners, we used to be like pasta and rice and, all of the carb,
Right.
carb, 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 because that's what we were taught. back in the day, and so you just had this completely wrong paradigm. And, for some people it worked. So some people, young males, usually it worked. For females, not so much. For menopausal females, definitely not.
Definitely
Like
not.
you have to take into consideration your load that you have in life, where you are in life, what decade you're in life, where you are hormonally in life, all of these aspects, plus the genetics, plus where your actual health is at right now, and put all those pieces together, how much viruses you've been exposed to, all of these sorts of things come into the picture of what is actually ideal for you. And that's where it gets a little bit, complex. But you can do some basics right for starters, like you said, just, bring it back down to the simple. We can get complex later once you're more advanced and you know what you're doing, but at least get on the right train track for your body. That's the key,
I mean, I
and
think that's what I think. I'm 46. A lot of the guys, men and women I work with are, late 30s, 40s, 50s, and we are often in a position where as you've alluded to, is, where many of us are in a position where the things that we used to do just don't, quote
don't
unquote,
work
work
anymore. Yeah,
anymore. And that's where we have to look at the compilation of things that we're exposed to over the decades and how it's literally accumulated, whether it's environmental toxins have
yeah,
accumulated, whether it's a slow progressive gut degradation, whether it's the accumulation of stress or our perceived stress, whether it's our dietary habits, our alcohol consumption habits, like all of these things are relevant. But fundamentally is we have to kind of lay things on the table and get a baseline assessment, whether there's lab testing involved, whether we're looking at caloric intake and nutrient intake, and then assessing of like, how do we root through this and what's the most logical place to start in terms of starting to take control of these behaviors. I think you were 100% on the same page there
mm, mm,
around that's the process of helping people change their behaviors for long-term change,
yeah,
because there's really no other way to do it at this juncture. Fortunately, though, we do have decades of trying a lot of things, I think, for
yeah,
people. All
yeah,
right, if we shift the perspective of like, I did all these things and they didn't work, well, what did we learn through doing all of those things? The times when you went keto or you did Whole 30 or you did a whole bunch of ultra marathons.
yeah,
What did we learn about our body during those times that were helpful for us and that were not so helpful? And how can we start to hone in on the right strategy for us, our lifestyle, our readiness for change, our existing knowledge, our level of commitment, what fits with our family dynamic, our social support system? Like, there's so many factors at play.
so
It
yeah.
does need to be very tailored to the individual.
Yeah, and then you get the results, and that shows with all the people that you've worked with. You get results, and isn't it rewarding when you see people's lives changed, empowered, inspired, and those like you say, you're working with a lot of hard charging people with big careers and things, and then they have a massive impact in the world positively because they're showing up better and they're going to live longer and they're going to be healthier and they're a better
Yeah.
role model for everybody. And it has a knock-on effect on society when you do that. So, like, is this part of for you, like personally, is this, like a real mission feeling, like working with people and having this impact in the world and seeing people's
Yeah,
lives
I mean,
change?
I view it as a responsibility at this point of the way that I can make the biggest impact in the world is by helping other people make big impacts. And
Mm,
that, starts with the way that they show up, the way that they lead by example, how it permeates throughout their family, through their community, through their businesses. Ultimately, I think that's, the way that we can make the biggest change. And it's empowering to know that we have a skill set and we have tools that could literally help every single human being on the planet. And so if this is the best, like, and ultimately, selfishly, like, I love this stuff. I love learning. I
yeah,
love nerding out on this, and I love learning it for myself. I love teaching it. Obviously, you can tell I love talking about it and being able to apply those skills and tools to other people. So It's, I think, one of those very fortunate situations where
Yeah,
I
lovely job.
genuinely get to do every day the things that I love to do.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful when you have a mission in life and you know where you're meant to be and what you're meant to be doing? And it takes a long time to get there, I found, but certainly for me. But it's really
Same.
empowering, isn't it? When you actually, all right, I'm actually at an age now where I've got quite a lot of experiences and knowledge, and spent my decades in the trenches and doing the wrong things and, and learning the hard way. That you can now share that with other people who are ready to learn, and not everybody is ready. Just last week I had a mum come, the daughter with problems. The daughter wasn't ready, like she wasn't going to listen. She wasn't going to. So I said to mum, here is a whole lot of educational stuff that I want you to start off with and try to get her to listen to, and then maybe we'll talk again in a few weeks' time or a couple of months' time. You have to get the person into a position that they are actually tried a lot on their own, and now they really want help, when they really want help. And I think the other biggest thing, Ben, too, is I work a lot with people with cancers and dementias and things like that, and really, severe brain injuries and all sorts of things. Um, is really listening to them, and not like a lot of them have been really not listened to by their doctors, unfortunately. The stories that I get over and over and over again is there's either nothing wrong with you, or you're just complaining, or just take you can't come with your own ideas. Don't bring me this research that's just come out. Don't think for yourself. It's my way or the highway. And that these sort of approaches I find are completely and utterly outdated. And we need to be listening to our clients. And the amount of time that people come and they're like, I was just told it's all in my head, and I'm like, it's just not in your head, you know and
Yeah.
here's actually what's going on in your body. Or we do some testing, we find out what's going on in your body, and
Yeah.
we work it out. And those people have just been palmed off because the system is not set up
Yeah.
that way. They've got 10 minutes with you. How are they going to get to a deep root cause that's complex, that's takes some testing, that takes a really deep look under the hood, when the system is set up to give you a pill and next person in 10 minutes time? We're not going to get there with that system. um,
No, fundamentally the system is broken, and there's far too much gaslighting going on
yeah.
in our medical industry. And I genuinely believe that every doctor has their patient's best interests in mind, but it really is the system that has set them up to fail, or to treat it as such a transactional process and such a business driven transaction, that they can't help but again treat it as such. And it's very, very unfortunate because, as I alluded to at the very beginning of our conversation, we know unequivocally the complexity that is the human body and all of the body systems as they interact with each other, as it interacts with our environment, the role that genetics play, the role that the gut plays. And so to suggest that, right, we're going to be able to diagnose and treat through our conventional practices is fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, and especially with the short amount of time and the numbers that the doctors have to process, like per day, because it's an insurance-based system or a government-based funded system where you've got to see someone every 10 to 15 minutes to make the whole practice work, and where you are incentivized to prescribe drugs, where you're incentivized to do certain things all the time. That's not a conducive way to get to the root cause. And then there are functional medicine practitioners and things that, and cellular health experts and regenerative medicine and all of these things, like A4M and all those, things that are coming up now that are going into a much deeper level. And they're the types of people that, you and I probably learn from. Um, and I think that approach is a much better approach to go sort of fundamentals. And I still think, being that, like, we're scratching the surface of what we actually understand of the human body. I don't think we're even like 0.1% of a way there. And we're going to learn a lot in the next few years with AI and some of the
Yeah.
breakthroughs that's going to allow. So that's exciting. I just wonder whether we're going to get tied up in red tape, and a lot of the breakthroughs that we have are actually never going to be seeing the light of day, which is
Yeah.
something that I worry about. Like I see things like, peptides or hyperbaric oxygen therapy or things that are fantastic, but they never get the momentum, they never get the light of day, and there's so much pushback against them because you can't make
Well, because they're
huge
not
money.
far, because it's not
Big
supportive of big
pharma.
pharma. But I'm optimistic, Lisa. I mean, I think that, with people like you and other practitioners like us speaking out, I think by virtue of the fact that the medical system is the way that it is, people are forced to start to do their due diligence. And with the accessibility of information nowadays, um, we're able to actually understand and learn more and more and more, which people, by virtue of people doing their diligence, like they're becoming more aware, they're becoming more knowledgeable. They're looking for alternative methodologies. And so we're going to get more and more people that actually want these quote unquote alternative treatments. Um, and it's supply and demand here. I mean, if people
Mm-mm.
are understanding the value in peptides and hormonal treatments and hyperbaric chamber and genetic testing and the complexity and validity of gut,
Yeah,
testing
yeah.
and treatment, then we're going to have people that are wanting those. And we know that there's more and more and more every single day. So again, I'm very optimistic about it. Not that there's not going to be pushback, right? Um, but I think that that's where having conversations like this can only help.
Yep. Again, it's inch by inch by inch. Each one of us talking creates a movement, from the people to the people, basically, where it's no, we're able to get our stories out there through things like podcasts. And I think, just coming back to what you do, like Body Systems, you called your company Body Systems. What is your approach to your systems? Like, so if someone comes to you, walk us through your process of how you work with them to really get to the core of what's actually going on with this person, and how does the systems side of it come into it?
Yeah, for sure. And for clarity, it's I'm not taking the place of a physician or a functional medicine practitioner. It's like I have a deep understanding of that stuff, having gone through it personally and having studied it for a long time. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is, I mean, we're helping people take autonomy and control and feeling empowered to take control over their health through our nutrition, our strength, and our lifestyle coaching. And so it all starts with just getting a baseline understanding of what people are currently doing. And most importantly, is helping them get an understanding and an awareness around their existing behaviors. So, what does their food consumption, their caloric consumption look like? Because remember, the vast majority of the clients that we're working with, like they're looking to lose weight. They're looking to lose body fat. They're looking to improve energy. They're looking to get stronger, to get leaner, to put on lean muscle tissue. Um, all of which, by the way, of course, is helping to improve health, to manage blood sugar
Massive.
more
Yeah.
effectively, like, right, to improve metabolic output, to improve blood sugar regulation, like all of those things. So, um, so we're looking at, nutrition intake. We're looking at overall movement output, like how many steps they're accumulating in a given day or given week. How many hours of sleep are they getting? Very objective, metrics, circumference measurements, body weight, maybe body fat testing, right? Objective metrics of establishing a baseline. And then from there, really building out a roadmap of like, here's where you are. You said you want to go here in terms of losing 30 pounds in the next 6 months. Right? We know by doing that, we're going to improve gut health, we're going to improve energy, we're going to improve cognitive function, we're going to improve confidence and energy and self belief, and you're going to be showing up better and setting a better example, all of the which. We're going to help you improve your nutrition and eating behaviors and exercise behaviors along the way. And so it really becomes from the assessment of like, how do we identify the low hanging fruit, right? Like, what's going to move the needle in the most significant way? Oftentimes, we do need to address gut health.
Mm.
We do need to address cardiovascular fitness. we do need to address cognitive function.
Mhm.
We do need to address musculoskeletal, you know, health and muscle integrity. And of course, we're adding in strength training to the degree that someone's willing and able to. Of course, we're ramping up physical activity. For a lot of the guys that we work with are coming in super stressed out. They have high blood pressure. We're adding in aerobic conditioning right out of the gate to help bring those blood pressure levels down because that's of primary concern,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's sort of like, where are the red flags?
Yeah.
What can we apply from a nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle standpoint right out of the gate to start to um, improve some of these conditions? And then we have a beautiful referral system for blood work and additional
Brilliant.
diagnostic testing for if and where that's relevant. If someone's coming in, they're already doing a lot of things, quote unquote, right, then it might be, yeah, let's get an organic acids profile run, or
Mm.
let's get some gut testing, or maybe some genetic testing. But more often than not, it very much is rooted in the fundamental nutrition and lifestyle behaviors.
Mhm.
Like, how do we help you start to make better decisions more consistently? How does that, and then subjectively, Lisa, like, how does that align with your work schedule, your lifestyle? Coming back to, like, how do we prioritize this stuff in a realistic way? What can you commit to from a training standpoint? Are we training at home? Are we training at the gym? Um, and
And you can work with people online too, B? Or is it
We only
solely?
work with people online. We're 100% virtual.
Wow.
And so through our technologies, we will, I'll have someone upload I have a designated like movement screen. So I'll look at how they're moving through a
Wow.
myriad of exercises.
Wow,
I've
that's awesome.
spent, I spent uh, 15 years in the gym working with people in person to the degree that I have a deep understanding of um, human movement. So I can look at, their videos of their exercises and determine, okay, we need to work on,
Wow.
posture and,
How cool is that?
scapular stability or, hip range of motion or whatever that looks like. And then I can prescribe a number of exercises to support whatever the goals that we have in conjunction with like bringing some of the imbalances out of, remedying some of the imbalances. And so that's a lot of what our coaching process looks like
Wow.
is determining where they want to go, like where they're starting from, where they want to go, their readiness for change, their commitment
Yeah.
level,
Yeah, that's crucial. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the art is really determining like how do we apply whatever we need to apply in a way where they're going to be able to take control and ownership over the process. And what we know about human psychology is, as much as people say they want a black and white plan, right? How many times have you had someone come in and say, just tell me what to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Just tell me the supplements to take, tell
Which
me the
never works.
exercise to do, tell me
Yeah.
what to eat, I'll do it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so, from a human psychology standpoint, we have to find kind of the motivational aspect of like, what
Yeah.
are you willing to
100.
do? How does it fit with your lifestyle? And how do we start to build that, the intrinsic motivation around that?
Yep.
So you don't ever feel like I'm telling you what to do.
Yep.
And instead, you have autonomy over this process, Lisa. You get to make
Love
choices that
it.
are right for you.
Yep.
Here's the choices that we have that are going to help you move the needle in the way that you said you want to move it. And then the beautiful thing is then we're left with trade-offs to say, I could do this or I could do this. What are the repercussions if I decide to go out to dinner with my wife this weekend and have multiple drinks and eat pizza? What are the repercussions of those decisions? How am I taking ownership over that? What does that mean the rest of the week needs to look like? If I decide, those are the examples and the
Yeah, brilliant.
circumstances and situations.
Yep. I love that approach because, like for me, I'm always talking about co-learning together. Like it's never
Yeah.
from the top down and preaching from the pulpit, you should do this, you should do that, because it really needs to come from the person. And I'm huge on education. So when people come and work with me, they often get hours of lectures to
I
listen
can
to, or people
I can
just,
see that you're probably a very good educator.
I love that because I can tell you to take something. Like, say, I tell you, you've got joint problems, we should be putting you on, I don't know, fish oils, just as give an example, or
Yeah.
curcumin or something. Okay, I can tell you to do that, but after you've gone through the first bottle and then you're thinking about buying the next bottle and you're thinking, oh, this costs money, I'm not sure if I really need that. Whereas if I've taught you what fish oil does in the body in relation to what you are facing and how that's going to affect you, then you're more likely to go, there's a reason here. So you've connected the dots. It's not just I told you to take it. It's
Yeah.
here's what it does in the body. I want you to understand it on a deeper level if we can. And the science level is dependent on the person as to how deep we'll go with them. And it gets quite complex when you've got a number of things in the mix or whatever. But it's about education, education. And I really try to get people to start to fall down that rabbit hole and fall in love with the process of learning. Because when they start to learn about their body and they're like, holy crap, I never knew that about myself or how I think or what I do, or, that this happens in the body and that. And, luckily I can get people to learn from the good teachers, people that, vetted and know who are good, because there's a lot of ones that perhaps, you don't want them learning from. But that sort of approach where they are being educated along the process, and then whenever something comes at them in the future, they'll know to go, I've got to go learn about this thing that I'm facing, and I've got to take control. And we have the tools now. We didn't used to have the tools. We didn't used to have the
Yeah.
thing, the ability to go to research. We couldn't listen to the best doctors, professors, scientists, researchers on the planet. We can now. And it's a matter of knowing where to go, what to do, how to do that, and then having a practitioner that you can work with and talk about. I invite people to come and say, hey, like I learn from my clients. Like they bring me, hey, I've just found this research, can you go and look into this if, and I'm like
Yes.
constantly, oh my God, I've got so much that I've got to research, but it's challenging, right? It's challenging. Doctors often don't like that approach because that challenges them. And they
Well,
have to go and do the hard work. But that's why you learn. That's a co-learning experience, right?
it has to be one, they have to be empowered to be proactive about this process for themselves. They have to. Like you're just not, we are so far beyond the baby boomer generation
Mm,
of just tell me, right? Like just give me a diagnosis and then give me the medication and I'm on my way.
yeah,
And unfortunately, that's so much of what our parents relied on,
still
and it's,
do.
medicine does not work that way. That's not how the human body works, to the degree that because of the level of complexity, there's so many things as you alluded to that we just do not know. And frankly, I can't even tell you how many mistakes I've made throughout the years. Like
Mm,
this is a practice for us.
yep,
And I am not going to claim for 1 second that I, have that I know everything. And anyone that does, you should probably run away
run.
from, because we just do not know
No,
as much as we'd like to believe about the human body and the nuances. And a lot of frankly, like a lot of the things that I did early on, I abhor
yeah,
and am just so you
yeah,
know
yeah. What was I
just
thinking?
embarrassed about,
All of
but it's
us.
also the
Yep,
very reasons why I've gotten very good at the way that I do things now and the way that I interact with clients and how I can empathize. And I think I see that in you as well, of someone who just has a lot of life experience, right? Um, which I think is an important quality to have as a practitioner, is you have to be able to empathize
yeah,
with your patients and with your clients. And that's also why I only try and bring on people whom I feel that level of connection with.
yeah,
Like I don't work with a lot of menopausal women. Like I
yep,
can't, fundamentally, I just do not understand what it feels like.
yep,
Obviously not a woman. Um, so while I understand the science, I don't know that I'm the right person, right?
yeah,
Just because of
that's
all those
fabulous to
reasons.
know where your lines are, like this is what I'm really good at and this is where I'm not maybe your best person. And that's isn't that fabulous? Because then you know that that's, and what I like about your approach is that humility that comes through from that hey, we don't know everything and we're still going to make mistakes. We made mistakes in the past, but again, it's that let's all learn together approach. And we've got some expertise in different areas and stuff, but and it also helps when you're working with other, like I often bring people in a team together for the person, especially if they're dealing with major things like cancer or something. We might have a team of people. We might have a nutritionist that they see, and they might be doing hyperbaric, and they might be doing intravenous vitamin C, and they might have a functional medicine practitioner here, and a specialist doctor there, and you put a team of people together for them or help them. I often do that because I've got lots of connections, and hopefully those are people that you can actually interact with. It's not always the case, but that actually work collaboratively together. So I'm really big on trying to build a team of people around me that I can help refer people out to, who I know that that person's going to get what I'm doing. The other doctor's going to get what I'm doing and what I'm trying to achieve, and then feedback to me. So that way you can work as a team, of experts in different areas and really get to that person to
A
their
hundred
finish
percent.
line.
Because listen, we don't and can't and don't want to do it all.
No.
So having, in my world is having a good chiropractor, having a good physical therapist, um, having in-person trainers that I'll refer clients to locally, having a psychologist,
Yeah.
or a therapist of some sort to be able to refer to. And yeah, so just again, having a physician where we can run labs,
Yeah.
functional medicine practitioner, what we call here a naturopathic physician,
Hmm.
who's going to think a little bit more holistically, someone who can leverage peptides and
Yeah.
all of those, like you said, hyperbaric. So we do want to really take a team approach about this stuff. And I think for the client's perspective is it's important to know that we're all on the same page, we're all on the same team, and we all have their own best interests in mind because a lot of times some of the frustration that exists in the medical realm or in our Western medicine realm lends itself to the fact that they're specialists in all of
Mm.
these different areas and no one's communicating.
No
And
one's
so people are on
communicating.
different medica. I'm sure you've experienced this
Oh,
plenty, right? But people are on different medications from different doctors and they're interacting with each other in negative ways and no one understands the complexity of what's going on. And that's the last thing that we need. Um, and you know what? It speaks to like when we have clients come on, our average client stays with us for about 2.5 years now,
brilliant.
is kind of our current tenure. And it just that by nature of setting those expectations right out of the gate, I think is assuring to someone that this is not going to be a quick fix. As
No,
quick as they would like to see change, um, it's not going to happen as quick as they would like. Yes, we can make fast progress, but in order to sustain it, we need to take the long-term route. And that's where I'm the, co-pilot and Sherpa, if you will, along the
I
way.
love it. I love that Sherpa co-pilot. That's brilliant. And it is about, um, people understanding, like when I'm working with people and they come in and the first, I'm really trying to gauge, is this a person that I can and want to work with, who I'm going to, that they're going to understand that this is a process, that this takes time, that it's not a magic bullet approach. That's not, sometimes I get people that come and they see the results that I've got and they're like, I want that. And I'm like, do you know what that took? Do you understand what it's going to take, the sacrifice, the
Right.
time, the commitment, the money, the this, that, and the other thing that it's going to take to get there? Are you willing to do that? That's not always a happy conversation to have, but it's a realistic one because people want the end result. They don't know how you got there. They don't know the process it was to get there and how hard that was. Very often a very difficult, road.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's trade-offs. That's
Yeah,
what life is. It's trade-offs.
yeah.
And
Choose your
a lot of
hard.
people want, right? A lot of people want all of the things they want to be lean and healthy and strong, but they're not willing to um, stop eating out. They're not willing to go to bed early. They're not willing to wake up early. They're not willing to put in the miles. They're not willing to stop working so much. They're not willing to stop stressing over things that they can't control. They're not willing to stop watching the news and getting
Yeah.
anxious about all of these, you know,
Yeah.
um, right, all of the things
Yeah. To get anxious
that
about, there's a lot.
all of the things that are very easy to get anxious about, and so it's about, is the juice worth the squeeze, and where are you willing to make those trade-offs? And assuming you are willing to make them, um, to what point do we, how far can we take it? Because there's always a tipping point as well. There's always a point where the juice just no longer becomes worth the squeeze. For a lot of the guys I work with, it's like, they'll get to a certain level of leanness and they're more than willing to sacrifice some of the previous lifestyle behaviors of entertaining clients, of drinking on weekdays or drinking at all, of
Oh,
late nights, of the type, some of the buddies that they hang around with, um, of cleaning up their diet, of eating more at home, of tracking their food intake. But there's often a point where it's like, you know what, I've taken it this far. If I continue to go down this road, I'm going to be sacrificing a lot more of the things that I enjoy out of life.
yeah. There
And
has to
that
be a
for me
point.
is not worth it. And I love nothing more than having those conversations with clients
That's
of like,
okay.
dude, that's incredible. Like
Yeah.
for you to be in a position where you get to make that decision, right? And you have full autonomy over this process is what I would want for every single person, as
Yeah.
opposed
Amen.
to,
Love it.
right, as opposed to framing it as like, I have to do this. I have to do this if I'm going to be
Yeah.
successful. That's a surefire way to not be successful.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way to wrap up, Ben. I think that to get people to the point where they want to go to, to what they want to achieve, and when they're happy, just maintaining that. But you've taught them a whole lot of life processes and skills and the way their body works and all of that along the way, I think is very, very powerful. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. It's been really insightful, and it really is so much about what we've been talking about is about mindset. It's about having the right people on your team. It's about having those honest, open conversations, and then taking tiny little steps toward your goal. And then, eating that elephant a bite at a time. That's a brilliant analogy. And then staying the course. When you get to the point, it's about maintaining. It's not like I did it for 6 months, I lost all the weight, and then I went off and partied again and went crazy again and lost it all again. It's about how you're going to maintain that and at what point you're happy with where you are. And that's fine too, because you've got to live life and you've got to enjoy yourself and make your own decisions about that. Ben, where can people reach out to you, and what's your website and if people want to work with you? We've got a lot of people in the States, we've got a lot of people all around the world here. Can we work with you from New Zealand? Can we work with you from, all over the
Yep.
planet?
Yep. 100%. We've had clients in Japan. I'm not sure we've had any clients, and we've had clients in Australia. So we are
Beautiful.
virtual. So we're all over the world. You can reach us. So I'm sure you're going to have the show
Yeah.
notes, the links
Yeah.
in the show notes, but we're at bodysystems.com
Hmm.
is our website. Our Instagram is a great place to
Yeah.
reach
It's a
out
great Instagram.
at Body Systems Coaching.
Hmm.
I also have a podcast, which I'm looking forward to interviewing you on, Lisa, shortly.
Yay.
It's called The Smart Nutrition Made Simple Show. And a lot of the similar types of conversations of what we just had today. I talk a lot of men's health, talk a lot of hormones, talk a lot of peptides, talk about, just lifestyle and nutrition behavior change and mindset change. So you can reach out to me probably through Instagram or through our website, would be best. People are welcome to email me, ben@bodysystems.com. And I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions about any of this stuff, or just want to see if our coaching program would be the right fit for you, I'm more than happy to have a conversation.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Ben, for all of that. And I can't wait to be on your show later on the week. So we'll look forward to having another magic conversation with you then. But thanks so much,
I
Ben, for
can't
being
wait.
on the show. It's been
Thank you
epic.
so much for your time. And thanks everyone for listening. I appreciate you, Lisa.